Welcome back, everybody. Mr. Rednicker here again. Today we're going to be working on finding the volume of a prism. Our main objectives here are going to be, of course, to find the volume, but of any prism using a basic or a fundamental type of formula. So we'll go ahead and jump into that with our first big key idea. We start off with this description of volume, and it says that the volume of a three-dimensional figure is a measure of the amount of space that it occupies. Volume, of course, is measured in cubic units. So far we've dealt with surface area, which measures in square units, but now we switch over to cubic units. From a science class, you, of course, might be used to measuring volume in liters or milliliters and things like that. But from a mathematical standpoint, we tend to stick to cubic units for the most part. And here's our key idea that helps us build the beginnings of our basic formula. So it says the volume, or V, of a prism is the product of the area of the base and the height of the prism. So we need to find the area of the base of a prism, whatever shape that might be, and we find the height of the prism. Of course, keeping in mind that the height of a prism is not necessarily how tall it is. It's really the distance between the bases. Okay? But you do see that formula down here algebraically, and that's the formula, the basic one I mentioned in our objective a moment ago, that we're going to use to find the volume of absolutely any prism. Now, you notice that the first part is capital B. That's very important. That capital B right down here does stand for the area of the base. So if it's a rectangular prism, we're going to have to find the area of this rectangle. If it's a triangular prism, we're going to have to find the area of a triangle, or so on and so on. But the height of the prism in these two pictures, it does appear to just be how tall the prism is. But as we saw in some of our surface area examples, if that prism is in a way laying on its side or on a different face, that height could be going from left to right instead. Okay? So when we say capital B times H, again, capital B, how we find that value is just going to determine on that shape, or I'm sorry, determine what that shape of that base is. To find the area of a rectangle, we take the two dimensions and just multiply them. That would give us B. For a triangular prism, we would take 1/2 of a base times the height, or 1/2 times its dimensions, and that would give us capital B. So you'll see how that'll change as we get started in our first example. And so in example one, we're just asked to find the volume of a prism. So starting with our fundamental formula, we can find volume, or V, by taking the area of the base, capital B, times the height. Now, a rectangular prism, the bases are actually a little bit flexible since all the sides are rectangles. But for most of us starting off, it's going to feel a little bit more natural to use either the top or the bottom as our base. That won't always be true, we know, but it works okay here. So I've kind of highlighted on the bottom there the rectangular base. And to find the area of that base, we would have to take its length times its width. So we are going to go ahead and take 6 yards times 8 yards. And again, that gives us that area of the base, or it will give it to us. After that, we would need to multiply it by the height of the prism, which would be the distance between the base on the bottom and this one up here on the top. And the distance between them, of course, would be the other dimension, which is 15 yards. Now, this might lead you to some work you may have done in previous years, where to find the volume, you would just multiply these three dimensions together. And if we look here at the formula that I've filled in, it looks like that's exactly what we're doing. The reason that I'm not explaining it that way, though, just for clarity, is because we are sticking to this formula because it is this idea that helps us find the volume of any prism, not just a box or a rectangular prism like we see here. Okay. All right, ready to finish things out then. We just need to take the area of the base, 6 times 8, which is 48, and we are going to take that times 15. Now that 48 would be something like 48 square yards because it's an area, but we haven't actually finished to have all of our units. So we will take our 48 times 15, and you'd want to grab a calculator, but I'll help this time and lead us to 720 for that total product. Of course, it says find the volume. Volume needs units, and as we saw a moment ago, volume uses cubic units. So we would say that the final volume is 720 cubic yards, meaning we use an exponent here of 3. But I kind of stressed the idea of finding the volume of any prism, so let's look at one that's not a rectangular prism next. So in our second example, I have a triangular prism for you, and we'll go ahead and use our fundamental formula and take the area of the base times the height of the triangle. I'm sorry, the height of the prism, and see how that helps us. But this time, to find the area of the base, of course, we need to find the area of one of these triangles here. Again, it looks like this one's kind of lying on one of its other faces, one of its sides, you'll say. But that does mean that the two bases is the triangle in the front and the one in the back. That'll be important to remember when we're going to finish up our formula here. So to find the area of one of those bases, we'll have to remember how to find the area of a triangle, which is, of course, 1/2 times the triangle's base times its height. So for a moment, we're going to focus on just that two-dimensional or that flat face, and we'll go back to the three-dimensional figure. Well, it looks like here that the base of the triangle is 5.5 inches. So we have 1/2 times 5.5 times the height of the triangle. And that's why they give you this extra red line here on the face, because the base and the height, they have to be perpendicular. So the height's actually that 2-inch line that is pointing towards that vertical line. So 1/2 times 5.5 times 2 should help us find that area. And again, of course, guys, I'd want you to use a calculator if necessary. This one for me is not the 1/2 times 5.5 times 2. It's actually just 5.5. But what we have now, again, after we did that, we had the area of the base, which we call capital B. So we're going to go ahead and say that that area is 5.5, but we need to multiply that times the height of the prism. But again, this time that height being the distance between the bases, that's what this outer edge is for right over here. So the distance between the bases, or the height of the prism, is actually 4 inches. So be careful when you come across these prisms, especially the triangular ones that, I don't know, I guess are kind of set up like a tent, if you will, here. All right, we're just about done. Then we take the area of the base, 5.5, times the height of the prism, which is 4, and you guys should end up with a total volume of 22, and in this case, it is going to be cubic inches. But that's it for the most part. As long as you can find the area of the base of any prism, and as long as you know the height or can find the height of the prism, multiplying those two values together is going to help you find your volumes. But I've got a couple for you to try just to make sure you are understanding completely. So if you'd like to do that, be ready with a pencil and paper here in just a moment. So here's two for you to try on your own, a rectangular prism and a triangular prism. If you'd like to test your own understanding, go ahead and pause the video and you'll get your solutions here in just a few moments. And if you got to try these, for number 1, the volume would be a total of 64 cubic feet, and for number 2 would be 270 cubic meters. But that should be everything that we have focused on here. And hopefully you feel a little bit more confident about our objective, being able to find the volume of any prism using our basic formula. Of course, if you have questions or if you come across any confusions as you work, please reach out to me. And as always, guys, I will see you next time.